Life on Bitcoin Standard. This video is about how an individual's life would look like living on a Bitcoin Standard. In short, living on a Bitcoin Standard means that you are pricing everything in Bitcoin and not in fiat. It's critical to understand what Bitcoin is in order to fully grasp the contents discussed in this video. I have already made a video on what Bitcoin is. I highly recommend the viewers to view that video before watching this video. Let's dive into this video. Number 1. Purchasing power. Bitcoin monetary system is a decentralized monetary system. It doesn't have a leader or leaders, and no central authority controls it. It has a defined set of rules, and every participant is incentivized to play by those rules to get rewarded in Bitcoins. One of the critical rules is that every 10 minutes, 6.25 Bitcoins are issued. That supply gets cut in half approximately every 4 years. The next time it gets cut in half is in April of 2024. These rules cannot be changed, and no central authority or government can step in to force a different set of rules that benefits them. For this reason, Bitcoin monetary system is protected against inflation. There is a real cost in producing Bitcoins, which is energy, so it's very hard to inflate it. The harder you try to inflate it, the harder it gets to mine in order to maintain the same supply of Bitcoins, which makes it the hardest money that ever existed in human history. Bitcoin is designed to protect your purchasing power. If the supply of something unique and rare like Bitcoin cannot be inflated at will, then it is inevitable that Bitcoin will be more valuable relative to every other asset class that can be inflated, especially the fiat currency. That means that the holders of Bitcoin will always have more purchasing power relative to any other form of money that's easier to inflate than Bitcoin. So living on the Bitcoin standard, your purchasing power will keep going up relative to all other existing forms of currencies out there. Number 2. Better life quality. Bitcoin cannot be inflated by a central entity, so the economic production of the Bitcoin holders cannot be stolen. It can only be traded fairly for something else in exchange that's equally as valuable. The purchasing power of Bitcoin will only rise with time. That means that prices of everything else will fall when priced in Bitcoin. Let's take a look at home prices. In 2010, an average home price in my city in Canada was approximately $150,000 US, which was equal to about 150,000 Bitcoins. And now the average home price is approximately $650,000 US, which is about 18 Bitcoins. That's in 2023. So living on the Bitcoin standard, your quality of life will improve because you will be able to afford better quality shelter, food, and health services for yourself and your family. Number 3. No wars. Bitcoin standard promotes peace for two main reasons, which are supreme property rights and consensus-based monetary system, or digital scarcity. Let's talk about the property rights first. Bitcoin holds the supreme property rights in human history. It's an asset that the holder can take to their grave and is gone forever. In the past, when a nation would attack another nation, they would confiscate all of their gold after defeating them. Now, they could keep funding the war with this confiscated gold. Gold is physical and often stored in a central vault, so it's very easy to seize and confiscate. The same is not true for Bitcoin. On a Bitcoin standard, an attacking nation cannot seize or confiscate the Bitcoin of the defeated nation. This is because Bitcoin is very portable and also can be held in collaborative custody, which would require several keys in order to access the funds. When the attacking party has no funds to confiscate, they will eventually run out of resources to keep funding the war. In that way, the only option is to negotiate with another party rather than war and seizure by force. Second thing, consensus-based monetary system. In the fiat monetary system, when a nation has to go to war, they don't ask permission from the citizens. They just go to war. and print money when they run out of it. There are no barriers to how much money a central bank in collaboration with the government can print, so they fund the war until they win. The taxpayers pay for the war by taxation, as well as inflation, which is a hidden tax. On a Bitcoin monetary standard, if a nation has to go to war, they need permission from the citizens because the only way to fund the war is by increasing taxes on the citizens. So if the taxpayers don't want to support the war, then there won't be any war. Bitcoin is a consensus-based monetary system and is protected by a wall of computing energy, so no central entity can print any Bitcoin and fund a war. So living on a Bitcoin monetary system, you will be supporting a peaceful society. Number 4, rent seekers won't exist. Bitcoin monetary system will promote highly competitive market for goods and services. To convince the holder of money that's rising in purchasing power to trade for something else will require some convincing. The service or the product has to be more valuable than the money, which will promote highly competitive market for goods and services. Only the innovative, competitive, and highly skilled people will survive in that world. There will be no place for rent seekers like the central bankers and government middlemen, who usually create friction in economic trade between two parties. So living on the Bitcoin standard, rent seekers will cease to exist. Only innovative and highly competitive individuals will thrive. Number 5, strong families. The purchasing power of Bitcoin has been increasing year over year since its existence. Compared to the fiat money, which has been losing its purchasing power exponentially over a period of 110 years since 1913. Wages haven't kept up with the decline in purchasing power. So in order for the individuals to keep up with the rising cost of living, they have to work more and take on more than 1 or 2 jobs in some cases. They also have to pay more income tax now because they make more income. This eats away their time from their families and hurts the children the most. Less time with families mean weaker families and more divorces as well. So living on the Bitcoin standard, your purchasing power will increase, which will buy you more time with your family and friends, which will lead to stronger families. Number 6, environment will thrive. Fiat money promotes war, consumerism, and constant spending of money in order for the economy to survive. Holders of the fiat are incentivized to think short term and spend it as soon as they get it. They are not incentivized to hold it for something valuable. This is extremely detrimental to the environment. Cheap and poor quality products are constantly being built and being thrown away in trash after a few years of use. Fiat incentivizes waste and uncontrolled use of resources. However, Bitcoin promotes peace and long-term thinking. Holders of Bitcoin are incentivized to hold their money and only trade for something that's very valuable and necessary. This incentivizes innovation and creation of very good quality products, which leads to less garbage and more controlled use of resources of Earth. For the Bitcoin monetary system to hold its promise, it has to preserve the promise of limited supply of 21 million coin cap. To hold the promise of limited supply of coins, it was designed with the proof of work consensus built into it. Proof of work requires energy, which cannot be created out of thin air, and that protects the Bitcoin monetary system against corrupt parties. The use of energy to mine Bitcoin is actually a net positive for the society, and that subject in itself requires another whole video to explain. In summary, the Bitcoin monetary standard is a net positive for the environment. So living on the Bitcoin monetary standard, you will be helping the environment and reducing our footprint on the earth. Number 7, more innovation. Most of the innovation in human history occurred during the Gilded Age. Gilded Age was the age of sound money, money backed by physical gold. Since the end of the Gilded Age, we have innovated very little. We have only built on top of the innovations made during the Gilded Age. Sound money incentivizes long-term thinking and promotes innovation, in contrast to the fiat money which incentivizes short-term thinking and no innovation. Most of the time on the fiat standard is spent on investments to protect an individual's purchasing power. Bitcoin is the most sound money that exists in human history, and it promotes long-term thinking. Bitcoin also promotes competitive and innovative markets. So living on the Bitcoin standard, more innovation will be promoted in the society, leading to more growth and production while reducing the footprint on the environment. Conclusion: Bitcoin is a sound monetary standard. Bitcoin fixes all the problems in our society caused by the fiat money. Living on the Bitcoin monetary standard, your life will thrive, and also the life of every living being on Earth.